Yeah, fair drinkum.
G'day everyone, welcome back to an episode of Interview with a Homebrewer. And you guys will notice this person, you will recognize him. He's been online for the quite a few years now. His name is LittleJohnsBrewing or Little Johns or John or Jono, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining me today. How's your day going so far, mate?
yeah, good, mate. Getting ready for Cherry Festival here in the Hilltops. We're the cherry capital of Australia, so the big festival this weekend. So the town gets a lot of people in. But today I've just set myself up. As we were just discussing before, me and the
Mm-hmm.
wife have just bought a new house. We're moving into town. We've been out of town for a while.
Mm-hmm.
120-year-old Federation home, and I'm standing in the middle at the moment. Everything's covered in dust. It's a complete mess, but I've got a stable Wi-Fi signal.
And that's all that matters right now, mate. My first question for you is what's your earliest memory of homebrew?
Oh, look, I had a bit of a look through your questions. I've done
Yep.
myself a little bit of a cheat sheet.
Yep. Yep.
Um, my first memories of home brew are probably uh, back to I remember my grandfather talking about home brew.
Yep.
Never actually seen him home brew. I do remember him talking about home brew. And my first probably memory was my stepfather when I was probably 18 or 19, and he was brewing some beers. Me and my mate tried a couple one night.
Was it old tin kitten sugar sort of style,
Yeah,
or was it something else?
kicking. But this was like, so what we're talking, 80, 88,
Yep.
89. And I remember me and my mate, I remember we were big drinkers at the time, and we shared two long necks between us, and we stumbled to the pub like we've been to the pub all night.
Yep.
Because he was doing the usual thing and sticking extra sugar in and whatnot. And I was probably sitting about 7 or 8% alcohol.
Yep.
And I remember the next night they all blew up in the garage because he had overprimed
Yep.
them. So that's my early memory of homebrew. Yeah.
That's awesome. And obviously that ties in with, do you remember your first brew? What style was it and how did it turn out?
My first brew. This is good. I've actually bought a prop for this one.
Okay.
Um, this is my logbook from that
Okay.
first brew.
Wow.
So this is from 1997.
Hmm.
That's the recipe. Anybody wants to go in on it?
Wow.
Um, yeah, I keep all this stuff. It's crazy.
That's
But
awesome.
it was a Cooper's Real Ale.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't look at my temperature notes and stuff there on that. It was brewed at 23, 24 degrees. Um, it wasn't well. I've got noted in the notes here that it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Um, but thinking back now, it probably wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Yeah, in all
Gotcha.
reality. And
But
at
for
the
a
time,
first brew, it wasn't too bad. Do you reckon?
it was drinkable, and
Yep.
yeah. But it wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it was great by any stretch. But I thought it was all right, and given it was the
Yep.
first beer I made, and I didn't drink much beer back then. I was a bourbon drinker. I only
Okay.
started brewing because my uncle, who I spent a lot of time with, around that like when I was younger, before I got married, when I was sort of in my early 20s, and he was a home brewer, and he used to home brew in his back shed. I think the bug bit me once I'd been going around there a little bit and doing his. He was brewing, fairly decent sort of. It only kicked a kilo in the shed in the bloody ambient temperature.
Yep.
Um, and I just sort of threw on from there. So grabbed a kit from the local brew shop for what it was, and away I went. So yeah, it wasn't great, but it got me, as I say, the bug bit me pretty hard back then.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely. Bug has definitely bitten me well and truly. I started up in late April, early May this year, and I've already got four kegs, four tap kegerator, fermenters, mate. It's definitely a bug. So anyone that's listening or watching this, and you've just started out, first of all, welcome to the homebrew community. But also, hopefully you don't get bitten by the bug too quickly because you could be out of pocket. But you know what? It's worth it for the brews and the quality.
yeah, a
Oh,
lot of people call it the slippery slope.
yes,
Um,
yes,
and I actually did a video actually on the slippery slope and the people progress and stuff.
yep,
And that was a little bit how I'd progressed up to that point. And
yep,
not every brewer does it, but certainly a lot of us do. And we'll
Some
probably,
people just stick with a kit and kilo their whole life, and
yeah,
others go into hops and kegging and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, and that's something we'll probably touch on further down the track in some of the questions you've got there, that
Yep,
sort of stuff. Yeah.
absolutely. So my next question for you, speaking of questions, is obviously you have a content page, group, YouTube channel for your homebrews. How and why did you come up with that?
Okay. It was a little bit was just it just sort of progressed naturally, but let's just quickly dropping back. I originally brewed back in '97. I brewed for about 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the point I just it just wasn't convenient with little kids and whatnot, and
Yeah,
I
of course.
stopped. So I got back into the brewing back in early 2011.
Yep.
So I was getting trying to find out as much information as I could, trying to make better beer. It's just a thing I've always done. I'm a
Yep.
cook by trade and stuff, so I'm always trying to find
Oh, I'm constantly on YouTube
like
looking
trying
for
to
new
find different
videos on
ways of
brews.
improving and stuff. Like even
Yep.
just going back to those notes, when I look back at those old brews, my second brew has already adding grain to it,
Yeah.
because I've always been trying to chase that extra stuff. So I was going around on the internet trying to find out as much information I can and reading different stuff, and started off on a homebrew forum, Aussie Homebrewer,
Yep.
and then progressed onto the Facebook groups. And I started finding there was a lot of conflicting information.
Yep.
It was very hard to actually get a clear answer on anything. So the more I dug in, the more I couldn't find stuff. And it was just pure coincidence. I was doing the shopping at Woolies, and they had like little cameras, like a GoPro, cheap GoPro sort of thing, and they were selling
Yep.
them. And I think by memory they were about $80. And I thought, oh, I
Yep.
should get one of those. Because I've been thinking about a couple of things.
Yep.
And then I walked in about 3 months later, and they had like one left on the counter. It was $20.
Yeah.
And I just I grabbed it. And at the time, there was lot of discussion going around about how best to wash your glasses for head
Yep.
retention and whatnot. And at that point, I'd always just used my dishwasher, and I'd had no
Yep.
problem. And I'd studied and looked at it and found, thought that's no problem. So I sat and I thought, okay, I'm going to get my camera, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do me a video, and I'm going to
Yep.
test the different things, because there was no information. You could not get information actually what was the best way of doing it.
Yep.
So I sat down and I've done a whole bunch of glasses in different methods, and and put up on YouTube. And that was the start of Little John's Brewing. That's just rolled on. That was the whole channel was initially just videos on the stuff I was learning as I was going, and also just to document sort of the journey along the way, because
Yeah.
no one else was getting that information. And then the Facebook page sort of flowed on a little bit after. I probably had a YouTube channel for about 3 years, I think, before I
Yep.
actually started the Facebook group, because Facebook was only just starting to come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got the content page, and initially that's where I started, but it's not interactive. Like people can't put stuff onto that page.
Yeah.
They can
Whereas the
comment
group
on
they
it,
can.
but they can't make their own posts and stuff. So then I made the group. So, and that became a little bit more in depth and a bit more personal, and allowed for stuff that wasn't particularly directly homebrew.
Yeah.
Though that's its main focus, but it allowed for me to actually do interactions with people that were beyond just the basic stuff that was
Yeah.
happening on other channels. So we get some good chats going on there at different times. And in all honesty, it kept a lot of stuff from the missus having access to it, because she can see the stuff on the content page, but in the group it's hidden a bit. So when I was buying a new bit of equipment, she didn't necessarily need to know about it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Fair
And
enough.
hopefully she doesn't watch this.
No, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, eh? So my next question for you is, what have been the 3 biggest mistakes you've made in your brewing journey?
Well, I don't I don't want to say mistakes, because everything you do at the end of the day is a lesson. But if I had to say like actual mistakes where I've done something that didn't really work, the biggest one I ever did was I done a brew, and I added 10 times as much sodium metabisulfate as I should have.
Ooh.
So instead of using 0.1 of a gram per litre, I used 1 gram a litre.
Oh.
So Um, and as you know, sodium metabisulfate is quite poisonous.
Yeah.
I was very concerned. I poured that beer and I was drinking it and was like, whoa, that's really salty. What's going on? Then I went back and read my notes. And I didn't even pick it up in my notes. It wasn't until actually what I went back and rewatched the Brew Day video and I said it in the video. And I saw myself measuring it out. I poured this big whopping spoon of sodium met. So that batch, it actually tasted nice. It worked in the beer, but I wasn't game enough.
Toxic.
I was not game enough to drink it. So that was a big mistake. Another one was actually starting doing extractor Ganser on the channel.
Okay.
Know if you
Why is that a
know,
mistake?
I sat down about 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and decided I was going to brew every kit tin in Australia that you could get.
Yep.
And I put this out into the World Wide Web before I'd actually really looked at it closely. But before I discovered there was over 300 different kits available.
Oh, geez.
And at the rate I was doing, it was going to take me like well over 10 years to do. And yeah, I'm now regretting that. I'm thinking that was a mistake to it. But I'm pulling out of that very soon.
Fair enough.
But I think, and this isn't necessarily directly homebrew, but the biggest mistake I actually made was quite a few years ago. I used to go scrounging at the tip for bottles in the old recycle bins when I was actually bottling early on.
Yep.
At one stage, I come up, someone must have cleared out an old garage or a deceased estate or something. But I picked up about 28, 30 old long necks that were dated, like stamp dated 56, 57, 55, like
Wow.
70-year-old bottles. And at one point, I tossed them when I got my keg set up, and I sort of spat the dummy and turned on bottles altogether, and I tossed them all out. And I've regretted that ever since, throwing those bottles, because you just don't find that sort of stuff anymore,
No,
especially bloody, we're not even doing pop bottles at all. So yeah, but as for brewing, yeah, I've stuffed up from brews. I've done some silly things with fruit and different ingredients, and I've burnt stuff. I've pitched me, yeast. It's not yeast. I've put the grain into the bloody Brewzilla without the malt pot. On probably three different occasions over the years. I've sparged with water completely wrong. I've burnt wort. All that sort of stuff. But again, to me, that's lessons, not mistakes.
Yeah,
it's just,
absolutely.
okay, you did something wrong. Learn from it and don't do it again. 9 times out of 10, those beers still come out all right. You just had to muck around a little bit to sort of fix it out. So you don't make mistakes. You just do things you learn from.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely agree. They're all learning experiences. And if you don't learn from those experiences, then, what are you doing, if I'm being honest?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. My next question for you is, what's your favorite style of beer to brew?
I have a look at this because you've got the two questions. Which is your favourite to brew and which is your favourite to drink?
Yeah, because they could be different. Mine is a hazy and to brew and drink, but some could be an IPA and then a stout sort of thing.
Yeah. When it comes to brewing, look, I enjoy brewing anything, but I like the challenge of brewing sours. And I do a whack of funky stuff. So that's an interesting process. So I enjoy doing that sort of thing. I also like doing big imperials or beers where you've got to sit down, you've got to really think about what it is you're doing, how you're going to go about the malt and the hopping and the balance. And you can't, that's not just, let's just throw 5 kilos of grain in a handful of hops, we're going to get a drinkable beer. Stuff that you're putting a lot of ingredients into and a lot of money that you really need to sit down and think about and get right. They're the beers they're the ones I really enjoy making. And because you just get a little bit more out of them at the back end too when you actually sit down and drink them.
You can go, that's a good brew.
Those beers you've conceptualized yourself. And go and put it on paper and then put it into a brew and you drink it and go, okay, you hack that work. That's probably the best you get with home brewing.
I can honestly say I've just had that feeling today. I have that feeling every now and then, but this one in particular, Lava Hazy is what I've named it. To anyone that's listening, the video of my review of this will be out probably in the next week or so. But yeah, I whacked in 4 liters of East Coast beverages, no pulp, unpreserved orange juice. Whacked in 240 grams of passion fruit pulp. Used 3 packets of USO5 yeast, and I ran 100 grams of Nectron and 100 grams of Citra as well. And I used the base was BlackRock Pale Ale as the extract to go with it. And I used
that's a good tin to start with.
yeah, and I used 1.5 kilo of oat in the sense of strained hot water through it to create like an oat milk for the haze. And it is without doubt up to date from since May, since I started brewing, my best hazy. And I gave a little taster cup to my neighbor because we do beer o'clock every week where we taste a brew that I've done, or if there's nothing new ready, we'll still have a beer anyway. And he froths it. It's so delicious. And that's not me bigging myself up, but I'm so proud of this. And as you said, from point of conceptualizing it to it actually becoming a thing, and you're not sure how it's going to go until it actually is ready to go. And it is delicious. Please continue.
Yeah, as I said, I seen the brew when you were doing that, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. How's that going to turn out with that amount of orange juice? Yeah, I use blood oranges in if you and I nearly bought one. I've got a an old Goza which was a kit based with blood orange, which I've just put on tap on keg 2 days ago, which has been in funking up in the keg for just over 12 months. And it uses a bit of blood, but mainly just blood oranges, and they're boiled up or just cut up. But, juice is always like just adding juice, especially to like that amount, has always sort of worried me a little bit.
Oh, I was so worried about it. I was like, this is either going to make or break this brew. It's going to be delicious or it's going to be friggin' foul. And it's turned out delicious.
Yeah, no, I just said those things, but when they work, fantastic. And again,
unfortunately, the next brew I do with it may turn out foul, but right now it's a winner.
You're learning from doing that. You've done it, you do it in a certain way, and it doesn't necessarily, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then you can adjust it. Same thing, like I've done beers with fruit additions and juices and stuff over the years, and a lot of time I was flying completely blind because again, no information. You didn't know what
exactly.
Doing. Yeah, so I was like, okay, how's this? How am I going to go about doing this? Like, I've done cherry ripe stout for years. I've probably done 4 or 5 different versions, and trying to get it right to get the cherries in at the right time and the right amounts to get that beer to work. I've never really nailed it. I've actually even brewed a variation of it at the local brewery, which was a well-received beer, but I still have not got the really locked in where I'd like to get it. But each time it gets you get that little bit closer.
Get closer, yeah.
You know, because you're working in going, okay, this is where I've got to add it, and this is how much, and all the rest of it. And that's the biggest fun of bloody home brew for me, playing around like that and getting results. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Good to see you get a nice one with that hazy.
Yeah, I was stoked. Still probably could do with one more day, or actually not a day, maybe another 12 hours to fully finish carbonating, but it's carbonated enough now to actually do a taste test. And, you know, obviously, as every homebrewer is, they're impatient. They want to give it a taste. They want to give it a test. And it turned out wonderful.
That can make a huge difference. Even just a couple of days on the gas difference, it can be huge to how beer actually tastes and how the actual finish feels. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And so my next question is, obviously we've done what's your favorite style to brew? What's your favorite style of beer to drink? Mine's a hazy and a stout. I love a stout.
Okay. Look, in all honesty, there's barely a style of beer I don't enjoy drinking.
Fair enough.
And you can give me anything, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to, if it's a well-made version of whatever style, I'll drink it, with no problem at all. But what I like to drink, it varies a lot on really season and all the rest of it. But overall, I generally tend to lean towards lighter styles. So lighter, lighter pale ales, like a hazy pale, as opposed to like a hazy IPA. I like a nice lager. I do a lot of corn ales, summer ales, that sort of stuff. And again, like up here, it's mid-30s pretty much all summer. So those beers you just need that sort of beer, just something you can crush around it. It's nice and easy. But I also love I've really been enjoying Scottish ale and English old ales of late.
Okay. Yep.
I sort of moved on. I did have a big run with red IPA, and I sort of moved on from the red IPA onto these the old ale style a bit
Hmm.
more. Um, but give me a nice imperial IPA. Yeah, sorry, imperial bloody stout. I'm in bloody pig in shit, as they say.
Yeah. Yep.
But a nice hazy. I sit down with a nice hazy IPA. Occasionally, I really enjoy them when I do them. I don't brew them
Hmm.
because I don't drink them enough.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I'm happy to stick with
Whereas I
buying.
have a dedicated tap in the kegerator for a hazy.
Yeah, if I put a hazy on tap, a hazy IPA, I'm not going to drink it that often.
Yep.
I'm happy to go and buy a nice can of a
Alter or something like
hazy,
that.
which
Yeah.
is what I was heartbroken when Deeds collapsed because Deeds made the best hazies in the country.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Um, but I am lucky. I'm not too far from Canberra. I can get the old Ben Spoke Sprocket
That's a good one too.
pretty readily. And that's a bloody good drop. So I quite often will have a 4 pack of that sitting in the fridge.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a beer I'll just buy occasionally
Yeah.
because I just don't drink them often enough.
Okay, so tying
Yeah,
into that statement, I've thought of a question, and obviously, as I just mentioned, on tap. So I have 4 taps in my kegerator at the moment. I've got always on tap. I have my salted caramel stout that I brew, and because it's good cold in on a summer day, but it's also good at room temperature on winter. And I also have a hazy. The other two are, pardon my language, fuck around beers. My
yeah,
fun beers, etc.
yeah.
So what taps obviously do you have that are a dedicated specific beer? Do you have a specific always on tap in your kegerator?
Okay. Not. I've got the 8 tap
Yep.
kegerator.
Okay.
And I have one tap which is dedicated to just to sour beers,
Yep.
just simply because I keep them just restricted to one tap, one set
Yes.
of lines. So I'm not pumping, So if I happen to not clean a line properly or get a bit of funk in there, it's not going to go into a normal beer. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
But other than that, I don't brew the same beer over and over and over, and I brew different styles back to
Constantly.
back.
Yep.
So I might brew the same beer twice in a year,
Yep.
but that's about it.
Fair
So
enough.
it's more a constant rotation for me, and that will my kegerator will definitely reflect the seasons a little bit. Like
Hmm.
at the moment, it's now starting to come. There's a lot more light beers. I've
Yep.
just finished a sour cherry stout, which has come off tap, which is the Swartz
Mm.
beer took its spot. No, it didn't. Sorry, because that had funked up cherry juice in it, so that funked goza has gone onto that tap.
Hmm.
But that's the Schwartz beer's just replaced the Scottish ale.
Yep.
I've still got a dark beer on tap, even though we're coming in the summer. Um, but the rest of the taps are lagers, XPAs, a couple of corn ales. They're
Yeah.
all quite light beers. Uh, so, but that will then change as I come into as we get towards the end of summer. I'll start brewing beers to get back into winters
Winter.
again. So the,
Yep.
the amber ales and stuff like that will start to flow in, and
Yeah.
um,
It's all to go with the seasons. Yeah, exactly. Like myself, as I said, I've got a stout tap always. I even got myself specifically the Nuka Tap Blacked Out Stealth Bomber, just so it's even a black tap, just so I could
yeah.
genuinely know for myself if I'm ever half cut, I know that that's always the stout tap.
That's
Um,
Peach's spot.
yeah, absolutely. I've got that. I've got a hazy, and obviously because it's coming into summer, so I made a 4.2% for a nice sessionable summer hazy. Then the other two beer lines I'm going to run a ginger beer, and I'm also going to run a hard lemonade. And I'm going to swap them out because I currently have a hard apple cider fermenting as well, and just sort of keep it fresh for summer. Maybe do a ale, something like that. But then as you said, once the season starts to sort of turn, I'll do up an amber ale I've always got a stout, so I'll probably maybe do a porter or a brown ale as well. So I definitely agree with that. It's always good to go with the seasons because at the end of a long hard day on the tools in the garden sort of thing, you don't want to be coming and drinking an amber ale after a Saturday afternoon, middle of January
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, but this is part of the reason I ended up with the 8 taps. Like I
Yep.
started off, like when I first went to kegging, I had one tap, then quickly went to 3 and
Oh,
4,
I started with 4. I'm just still
5.
I'm trying to figure out a way to justify getting more.
Yeah,
I could put more in the fridge specifically, but I'd have to do a smaller keg size because I've got
yeah.
4 19 liters sort of thing.
Well, see, I've always because I don't actually drink a lot of beer. Like people think,
I don't either. It's just conditioning, for lack of a better
yeah.
term, in there.
But I like, and I find this with
I
pretty
like
much
options.
everything in life. I like options. I like to change. I don't like to drink the same.
Exactly.
I go to my coffee cupboard. I've got 7 or 8 different coffees in my cupboard because
Yep.
I'll drink a different one every time I have a cup. I don't drink the same
Same
one
reason why I have the 8
back to
taps. I'm
back.
the same with the four
Yep.
with the
So
four taps.
I need the same with the beer. So I got to the point where like 4 taps wasn't enough because there wasn't enough variety, and I do the same thing. I run 9 litre kegs for most brews,
Hmm.
so that allows me to still get a reasonable turnover.
Hmm.
So nothing lasts for a particularly long time. So I'm getting a new brew on tap about every 3 weeks.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
for me is fine because then it keeps that little bit of change.
Hmm.
But then I don't get stuck going, oh, hang on, I've got to drink bloody, the same
Stout for 3 weeks.
over and
Sort of thing.
over and over, over and over. And it'll
Yep.
change a bit too, depending on, if we have family coming at Christmas or at Easter or a long weekend, I'll go, okay, I might brew, 2 beers specifically to allow for those people coming, make sure they've got a beer they can drink. If I know there's no one coming for a while, I might get a little bit more adventurous and throw some, a bit more crazy stuff on, like a smoked amber or more funky stuff that I know that other people aren't going to drink. And it doesn't matter because they're not coming, so
Yep.
I can get through it. So,
And speaking of brewing for other people, a video that caught my eye of your channel a while ago was actually you brewed a porter for your son's wedding years ago, and you were doing a review each year. Unfortunately, now you're out of those bottles, but you were having a bottle a year every year until you ran out. First of all, how did that go? How did the idea come about, and how did it end up this year with the final bottle?
Okay. When the son was getting married, they came to me and asked me to brew a beer like for the wedding favors for the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So normally you get a little bag of fucking sugared almonds or whatever. Because the daughter-in-law, her dad has bees, so he has honey.
Oh,
So
okay.
the idea was I'd do a beer, he'd do honey. So every couple, the man got a beer,
Yep.
and all the ladies got a little jar of honey.
Nice.
So it was homemade, and we got labels and stuff done. So I said, okay, well, I'll do an imperial. I didn't do a stout because
Mm-hmm.
99% of the guests at the wedding weren't particularly craft. Certainly weren't craft beer drinkers.
And stout is definitely not for
But
the
stout was going to
casual
be a
beer
little bit
drinker.
too savage. So I pulled it back and basically did an imperial porter.
Yep.
So then sat down and worked that out, and that was a challenging brew. They had to do a reiterated mash, which I'd never done before, which was fun and games. But was again, like I said, that beers you like to brew was a really enjoyable and challenging thing.
Yep.
So then we had bottles left over at the end of the day. I think I had basically a 6-pack.
Yep.
And so I went, okay, well, I'll do a bottle every year on the anniversary. So actually, on the anniversary of their wedding, I've sat down every year and I've cracked a bottle and done a taster. And
how did you find the flavor difference each year? You know, the flavor profile, the quality, etc.
Every year was different. I think by memory, the third year I thought, no, it's turning. It's not. It's going downhill. We're losing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the fourth year was like, nah, it was incredible.
It's come back.
Yeah. And I kept them in the fridge. They were in my fridge the whole time. They were always on the door of the fridge, this little pack of beers. So but it changed.
And what was the best one of them all? Not the wedding date one, but the anniversary ones. Which was the best one in your opinion?
I think year 5.
Okay. So that was last year, or was that the year before?
That was last year. Because I've just done it with only a couple of was in September, so I've only just done the 6th year. The first year it was very heavy chocolate and very boozy, which was
like the
really
chocolate
nice.
had settled sort of in it.
Well, yeah, it was 12 months old, but it was a challenging beer to drink in that first year. It was not. Even my wife shared a glass with me, and she doesn't drink beer very often, and she actually enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think overall as the beer, that fifth year was just in the sweet spot. The
Yeah.
chocolate had come back up a little bit. The coffee notes had settled. Was distinctly coffee, but not. There was no bitterness with it. It was very smooth and creamy. Like it was up. It was up there with any commercial beer I've ever drank.
Wow.
Which was nice considering it was a complete unknown when I brewed it the first
Oh,
time.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
speaking of commercial beers, that ties in perfectly with my next question, which is when you're at a pub, say Stone and Wood is not on tap and
yeah.
Bolt is not available, what is your go-to commercial beer at a pub?
Okay. I'll either go with 2 years old.
Yep. Okay. Love me a two years old. That's what
Um,
got me into dark beers originally. So I
yeah,
definitely agree with that.
yeah, two years old. And for a long time because that was for me, it was the only decent beer I could get on like, in most pubs.
Yep.
Reese's Draft. If you've got a Reese's, I'll happily drink a Reese's. Uh, and realistically, like it's changed now. Obviously, it's changed now because you do have much more variety now. There's tends to be a craft beer, and especially locally, we've got there's as you said, there's Easy Hazies, but all the pubs and clubs in town have all got
Some sort
Stone
of craft
on tap.
on. Yeah.
And Stone and Wood on tap's not a bad. Like that's not a bad beer, fresh on tap.
Bolter
Um,
XBA is all right on tap.
yeah, and that's a little bit harder to get in town. The Stone and Wood's certainly
Okay.
on
A lot
every
easier.
tap.
Okay.
If I'm in when I'm down the coast, yeah, I'll do XPA or that. I normally do hazy because normally it's me driving
Yeah.
to
Fair.
go somewhere. So, but yeah, before that, it would be the Drishas or an old. And if they didn't have those options, I'd just drink bourbon.
Yeah. Fair. Fair
I
enough.
fell back to the old, the old faithful. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we'll stick to what you know, as they say.
yeah.
And speaking of that, my next question is what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given about home brewing?
Okay. I've been that. I realistically, I probably haven't been given that much advice. I've found it myself,
Yep. Okay.
but biggest thing really would be asking questions.
Yep.
Ask questions. Like none of us are experts.
No.
It doesn't matter how much you know, but particularly when you're starting, because you don't know what you're doing. Ask questions. Like grabbing a Cooper's tin and reading the instructions and putting them together, fine. But
But who of us knows when we start out our first ever brew to put filtered water?
yeah, when you follow those instructions, you make a terrible beer. And I've always said it. So many people who start home brewing do not continue
Because they get put off by that
they
first
don't get
brew.
information up front. They make 1 or 2 batches of really bad beer, and they can't afford to do it because half the time the wife has said, "Well, you're not buying commercial beer because you're making home brew." So when they can't drink it, they so they toss it all together and don't learn. But asking questions and these days it's just ridiculous not to. It's information is so readily available. Facebook groups, you can jump on like and in a matter of 15 minutes at pretty much any time of the day, you can get an answer to a question. Won't always be a good answer, but you can get answers.
Some will be send it. And
Yeah,
another.
yeah. I mean, but and that's hard to trying to filter out what's good and what's not when you don't know. But that's
Yep.
the beauty of YouTube. You can get on YouTube. There's a multitude of people that it's videos on everything you could ever want to know. And generally, if someone's gone to the trouble of actually doing YouTube and putting stuff on, they're generally giving you decent information. Like
Yeah, what I find when it comes to YouTube videos in particular, 90% of the time when it comes to home brewing, you'll find if one video or one channel, for example, yours, if I'm wanting to find out hypothetically how to do a CO2 transfer to a keg, and I'm not sure how to do it, look it up on YouTube. And if you're doing it, I'll find another video of someone else. And if they're doing the exact same, then it's literally the way to do it, sort of thing.
That's it. And it takes you, it's a matter of minutes.
Yep.
Like when I started, it was a 20-minute bloody bus ride just to go to the local brew shop and
ask. Yeah.
Even if you wanted to ask, so you didn't bother. It was too much trouble. Yeah. So the other thing, and if this is a big one, and you see it a lot of the time floating around, the old RDWHAHB. Relax, don't worry, have a home brew. You worry. People worry about their beer. Is this going to is this going to be all right? Is this going to be all right? Is that going to At the end of the day, it's pretty hard to muck up a beer really badly, and it's pretty hard to make a beer you can't drink.
Yeah, Very hard to make an undrinkable beer.
There's levels of tolerance, but
Absolutely, and that's individual to the
they're all
person.
drinkable. Just sit back and do it. And like I said, like my catchphrase on my like at the end of all my videos, brew beer, drink beer, talk beer.
Yep.
If you're doing that, yeah, you're not going to go wrong.
No, absolutely.
If you're drinking the beer and talking to people about it, you learn. You're gonna get better all the time. Yeah,
Absolutely. And what do you know now that about homebrewing that you wish you knew when you started?
everything.
Agreed.
Everything.
I've only been brewing for since May, but there's so much that I've learned already, and I
Like everything. I wish I knew everything I knew now. But but there's so much stuff that when you go back and go, if I'd known that, if I'd known that, if I'd known that. Instead of actually stuff I wish I knew, I wish I had access to the information I have now.
yes, that's a great answer.
Because the reality is now there's no reason not to know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, just an example, 14 years ago, we built our house. I lost my job 6 weeks before we finished the house.
Oh.
And I was counting on that on my pay to pay for a carpenter to lay our proper timber wood floor.
Yep.
That was gone. I had to lay that floor myself.
Yep.
I hadn't done carpentry since I was in year 10 at school.
Yep.
And I was a shit at school and didn't pay a lot of attention. I'm not bad. I'm not bad on the tools, but I didn't know what I was doing. But It took me, one afternoon and probably half a bottle of bourbon to learn how to put fucking a wood floor down.
Yep.
Just take 10, 15, 20 minutes with it, sit down with a beer, and you can learn anything you need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Sit on a Facebook group, for half an hour each evening while you're having a beer after dinner or whatever. And you're going to pick up more information in that time than I picked up in my first 4 or 5 years of brewing.
Yep.
So, but it's all the things.
Yeah.
It's
everything. It's everything and all of it.
Everything. You need to learn. You need to know everything, but you can't learn it all at one time.
Yep.
So you put it into place as you go. But again, it goes back to that, the questions and stuff. But so I didn't particularly get any. The new, like, I don't know. What did you ask me about the new rules? Are we still on the bits of advice I got?
No, I was on the bits of advice that you got, but you ended up giving your advice, which is great because it helps segue that in. That's fine.
But it's just you got to find the information yourself.
Yeah.
Join brew clubs.
Brew clubs.
I wish there was a brew club local to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a small town. There's not a lot of home brewers, and the core little group that we do have, like we have a little group, the beer monsters.
Love that.
Just being able to sit down with a couple of other guys at the home brew and try their beers and talk about ideas is just awesome. It really is.
And with the internet, obviously, you can find them a lot easier than 20 years ago, sort of thing.
And they're everywhere. Every major city's got any major decent sized area is going to have a home brew club that you can get along to occasionally, and and that on its own would be just so much, wealth of knowledge for a new brewer. Your beers would jump up so quickly by doing that. That's definitely a place you want to look at.
Absolutely, and that's a bit of an untapped one that people may not realize is, people can go online and look at all the advice and YouTube channels and all that stuff that they can, but there's also a little bit of an element that doesn't beat in person going to a brew club or even going to your local microbrewery and giving a taste tester to your local head brewer, and they can give you some feedback, sort of thing. I did that with one of my first brews, and they told me, try this instead, and it helped. So definitely agree.
That can be a big thing. Getting somebody else, just getting other people to try your beer and get real feedback.
Yep,
that's the hard thing to get, because normally it's family and friends, and they'll tell you.
And they want to say, "Oh, it's good."
It's great because they're getting free beer. They don't care. They don't know any better. They don't know how to give you the feedback you want. Other brewers do. Other brewers know what to tell you. Now they tell you, what's wrong or what you've done right or how you can fix it.
Yep.
So that's great things to do. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So into some quick fire questions. My first one of that is, what's your favorite hop to use?
Um, I use a lot of Amarillo
Hmm.
and Citra.
Yep.
And again, because I've got one of those lighter styles, and they just work so nicely.
Yep.
But I probably, yeah, overall probably use Amarillo more than any others. But I don't really have a favorite hop.
Okay.
But
But so
again, it
you'd
comes
use that
down
one the most
to
frequently.
there's better hops for different styles. So,
Yeah, the need. Yep.
yeah, I mean, so like if you're talking stouts, I've got I love a good bloody East Kent Golding in a stout. You
Hmm.
know, if I'm doing just a simple lager, I like something like a sativa or a Solero, which is a
Yep.
very unusual hop that people don't use very often. They're getting harder and harder to find. But both two absolutely fantastic hops for very simple, light flavored beers. So yeah, it depends more on the beer style, which hops. But Amarillo is probably up there in the list of my favourite overall.
Okay.
I will give one hint while we're there.
Mm.
If you want really big punchy aroma in your beer,
Mm.
dry hop with Cascade.
Okay. I'll definitely give that a go. Thank you. And anyone that's listening.
Cascade, as far as I'm concerned, is the absolute king of aroma.
Okay.
Um, don't use it for anything else, but just
Yep.
in a dry hop, just for some
Yep.
aroma with whatever hops you're using for flavour.
Mm.
Fucking
Okay.
bingo.
Okay, I'll get into that. And obviously, we just mentioned the hops that you use the most. Is there a least favorite hop, whether it's because of its flavor profile or its aroma or something like that? Because
Okay.
a lot of brewers I've spoken to, not on this series, but in general, really don't like using Sabro in particular. Is there one that you don't like using?
Sabro's great.
I love Sabro as
They're not
well.
using it right. They're not using it right. They're not using it in the right place.
Yep.
Sabro's a bloody great hop. I use Sabro in my BFO Stout,
Yep.
and it works fantastic. But you've got to know how to use it because it is a little weird little hop.
It is finicky, yeah.
It changes flavour incredibly between a 10-minute boil and a 60-minute boil. You get a
Yep.
whole different effect from it. 60-minute boil, if it's there on its own, it's like you're drinking a minty ice cream. It's
Mm.
it's brilliant in stout.
Sounds delicious, yeah.
But I think people use it in a pale ale, and it's just not going to work. It's not
Yeah.
hasn't got, it has not going to support it. But yeah, but one hop I really don't like is Mosaic,
Hmm.
which is good. I use Mosaic quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't like it,
Okay.
which seems
That's
crazy.
interesting, yeah.
I don't like Mosaic on its own and what Mosaic by itself can do. But it is a brilliant hop in combination with your other citrusy hops.
Yeah, like Citra and Galaxy,
Amarillo,
etc.
Galaxy, Eldorado, that sort of stuff, and you tie in a little bit of the Mosaic. It works nice, but it's got a really nasty edge on its own that I don't like.
Okay.
And I can't stand Nelson Sauvon. Again, I use it in certain beers because it does work with other hops, but on its own, I don't like it. And Rakow or Raku, I don't know how
Yeah,
to
I know
pronounce
the
it.
one you're talking about.
From
Yep.
New Zealand, it's an absolutely disgusting hop.
Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah,
know a lot of people. Like Gavin himself actually said he doesn't like using it. So
yeah,
yeah, I
I had
definitely agree.
I had a brew a while back. It was a fresh wort kit from a brew shop,
Yep.
and it had that in it. And I honestly believe that single hop edition ruined the whole beer.
And it can. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but there's
Okay.
a couple others I don't like, but
But
yeah,
those are the standout ones.
they're more mainstream ones that people are more likely to use.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question: extract or all grain, or fresh wort kit? Because that's the sort of middle ground.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've looked at that. That's a very specific, interesting topic, and that ties in a little bit what's your last question.
Hmm.
Um, Extract or all grain is, for me personally, all grains. All grains the king of beer. Like, you're not getting any better than going all grain. But that being said, at the moment I'm doing like partial mash and dry extract kits.
Yep.
And nearly half the beers on White Tap at the moment are done with that style.
Yep.
And they are all as good as any all grain brewer I've ever brewed. They're all really,
Yep.
really nice beers. For me, it comes down to the old adage of you got to brew the best beer you can. This is funny. I've got a fellow in America. He's actually stuck this up on his wall in his bloody brewery in his cellar. It's a quote from a video I did quite a while back. It basically goes on the lines of the aim of any home brewer should be to brew the best beer we can brew with the ingredients and available tools with the time and space we have available.
Yep, absolutely agreed.
So that could mean extract. It could mean kits. It could be all grain.
But just go out of your way to make the best brew you can.
I'll never say one method is better than another. Directly to a home brewer, because you've got to fit in with your own thing. All grains are always going to make, realistically, should make better beer. But a lot of brewers, a lot of brewers don't have the knowledge,
or the time,
or the nous to actually make a really good quality all grain brew. It's far easier to mess up an all grain brew than it is to mess up an extract brew. Extract brews are very hard to fuck up. Sorry if I'm using too many.
No, that's fine. No, it's fine. Don't be.
But that's the reality. You can't. It's very hard to mess up an extract brew.
Absolutely.
It is actually quite easy to mess up an all grain brew.
Yep.
Because there's so many things you've got to get right to get a good. You're going to get a better beer. So.
That's the sort of the risk reward you take to try and get a better beer.
Yeah, if you put the effort in and you're doing it properly, then you're going to get a far better beer. But there's no guarantee. And I hate that whole argument. Everyone says all the time, "Oh, grain makes better beer." Well, yeah, it can make better beer.
Yeah, that's a better argument. It can, not it always does.
It can. It doesn't always. Yeah. Our fresh walk kits. I've got a couple. I've got 2 beers on at the moment, which are fresh walk kit, and they both made some decent beers. But at the end of the day, I've never met a fresh walk kit that I can't make the same as or better beer than. So for me, and it's not, I haven't got convenience. I just can't go down the road and buy a fresh walk kit. I've got to go to Wollongong. I've got to go to Canberra, Sydney. I can't get them shipped in. It's too much money. So for me, they're not an option, and I'm happy for that, because I think I honestly think they're subpar beer compared to what you can make your own very easily on your own setup.
Okay.
I understand.
As in, is that fresh wort compared to all grain, or is that fresh wort compared to both all
fresh
grain and extract?
That's extract. I've done plenty of fresh wort kits. I could easily make a far better extract brew.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting.
And that's not bloody, talking myself up. That's just a harsh reality of the fresh wort process.
Well, I find I've actually not used a fresh wort kit yet. However, I do have some coming from Keg King. So anyone that's listening, be sure to check out the channel in a few weeks' time, because I'll be running a series of some Keg King fresh wort kits from them. So shout out to them. But I've found what I'm gauging just off watching videos and what I'm learning is fresh wort kits seem a lot more limiting than with what you can do with them compared to extract and or all grain, because you've already got literally everything. You just add water and yeast, and that just seems, in my opinion, no offense to anyone, and not Keg King either, just in general a fresh wort kit like a cop out. You put it in, you add your water and yeast, and whereas an extract kit you could at least add, you could probably add hops to the fresh wort, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can be like that. And again, but that's what you're buying, and you're buying a set style. But the one I've just done on tap was
convenience sort of thing.
It was actually designed to be brewed as an XPA or as a Pilsner.
Yep.
Yeah, just by changing the actual hops and how you were doing the yeast, and it worked quite well. But yeah, they can be a bit restrictive. But I completely understand what people do, and it's a far better beer than kit and extract.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for just dumping it in, you get a good
adding water and yeast and bit of hops. Yeah.
So
I agree. I can definitely see the logic behind it. If someone just wants to brew they've got one tap system at their home and all that, and they work 14-hour days, they just want to whack that in the fermenter, add some water, boom, done, set and forget. Absolutely. But to someone like yourself and myself, where we actually want to take the time to craft a brew, it just seems like a bit of a cop out. But I'm very excited to give these a try, because I've not actually used a fresh wort kit before.
No, but they've definitely got their place. Like everything else has got its place, and there's somebody that's going to work great for. It's like I said, it's finding out where you sit within
Oh,
the whole
absolutely.
home group, what works for you, yeah. And
Absolutely. And
that works
so,
for other people, yeah.
yeah, so my final quick fire question before I have my last question for you is keg or bottling?
Oh, kegging, no doubt.
Goes without saying.
Um, yeah, I,
Yeah, you don't even really need to say anything. It just makes
it's like,
sense.
yeah, it's like like it's not a necessity, and like, but it is easier on the day to day. Like when you can get a brew at the end of the day, you just transfer it into your keg when it's finished fermenting and put in the fridge. Yeah,
Mhm.
not mucking around with bottles and all the like. You still got to clean kegs and stuff, but it's
Yeah,
nowhere
yeah,
near
of
the
course.
drama.
Mm.
And look, there is just something to be said for walking into your brew cave or your garage or your
Just
on
being
your
able
back
to.
stand or your family room, wherever it is, and pouring a beer off tap yourself, a beer
It's
that
so
you
true.
made,
Yep.
and the look the look on people's faces when they walk into your house and you've got
Beer
beer on,
on tap.
like,
Yeah.
oh shit, tradies come to my place and fucking near fall over,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got as many taps as any pub in town,
Yep.
but it certainly helps when you've got decent beer on them.
Yeah,
But
of
again,
course.
it comes to, like that's not a cheap exercise setting up, but either.
No, it's not.
My keg system probably costs $1,500 all up.
Yep. Is it, if you don't mind me asking, was it a DIY kegerator or was it
Yeah,
a system built
kegerator,
one?
the X, the bloody, I think it's the X.
Yep.
Yeah, double font. It's all set up. But like I said, that was over $1,000 just for that, and
Yeah.
then that's without keg. That's without the kegs.
Yeah.
And the gas bottle, and so it's not a cheap exercise. But by the same token, if you want to just have one tap or
It's
two
cheap as
taps,
chips if you just want
then
one or
it's
two. Yeah.
cheap as chips. It's a $50 fridge off Gumtree.
Yep. A shank and a tap and a
Couple of
beer
couple
and
of
a,
couple of kegs, and you do it for under $300.
yeah, exactly.
And that's not big dollars, and
Compared
not
to
having
the other
not having
setups that
lost
people have.
bottles and having them around everywhere and the
Don't
space
get me
they.
wrong, I do still have a stack of bottles. For example, my neighbor that I mentioned when I do beer o'clock with, if he really likes a brew that I've done, I'll bottle up a few of them and send them over to him later on after beer o'clock sort of thing.
Yeah, I've still got. I mean, I've still got bottles. And I bottle. Well, I don't bottle any of my standard brews, but all the extracted Ganser brews I still bottle because the reality is I normally only bottle about 6 bottles off each batch
Yep.
and keep them. The rest of it gets tossed out.
Yep.
Just because I just can't drink extract brew anymore.
Fair.
As a general thing, I just can't deal with it any longer anymore. The
Fair
twang
enough.
it's just like whoa, no. But occasionally I pay the price, but occasionally I'll do a brew and go shit, I should have kept that because
Yeah,
that's
okay.
not a bad drop.
Yep.
Occasionally, but it's pretty rare. But yeah,
Yep.
so I'm down now. I think I've got 4 the boxes of the Cooper's
Yep.
PET bottle. That's me. That's my range. Some are empty, some are full. At one stage, I think I had like 40 odd cartons of stubbies, which was
Oh,
my bottle.
literally, I'm still trying to offload some. I started out with bottles before I had kegs, and I think at one point I had 280 long necks as well, and then I had about 40 PET bottles with the screw
Yeah.
caps. So
I've had
yeah,
them. Yeah,
I've
and
chucked a lot of them.
I've had them. I've thrown them all, and I've got them all back again. And I've thrown them again. And I've got them back again.
Yep,
But now I've only got about half a dozen glass long necks. Everything else is just PET. I've got bloody like
yep, I agree.
I've
Yep,
got about a box and a half of these 500 mils from Kegland. Actually, no, I've only got a box left because I sent a box to my brother-in-law
yep,
full of beer, and that's it. So, and that's fine if that's all you can do. Bottles are fine, but I like the idea of actually, like in conjunction with pressure fermenting,
mm,
being able to just put even in bottle just the beer exactly as you made it.
yep,
Not having to add priming sugar to it because it does change the flavour.
yep.
I know people argue with me about that one,
No,
but
I'd agree with that because I was
I'll
doing
argue that one every day of the week.
I wasn't doing primary sugar. I was doing equivalent. I was doing carbonation drops, which still differ the flavor. And as soon as I moved to CO2 pressure ferment, I'm not fermenting CO2 carbonation in the kegs, massive difference in
Yeah,
flavor.
yeah. I mean, you notice it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've done
don't get me
tests.
wrong. Still tastes good. Still tastes
Still
good,
tastes fine,
but just
but it
definitely not
changes.
as good.
It does change the taste of the beer from where it starts at, and that's the beer you're trying to make.
Yeah.
So then add sugar to it that changes the flavour. It's like it's a bit of a waste, but it's again comes down to money, space, time. What you're willing to put in on what you can and can't do. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and no one should ever feel shamed for what they can and can't do. If all you can do is bottle, go for it. But if you can do kegs, go for it as well.
It annoys me when you see questions on Facebook.
There's so many elitists
like
keg all the way.
And people come up and go, get kegs. Like, that's not what he asked,
Yeah.
Kegs are good, but if you can't bottle, answer the guy's question about bottling, help him out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not the be all and end all. You get good beer. You get good beer either way. And I've actually had plenty of beers actually taste better bottled than on the keg.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is, I don't know, and I don't know what the science is behind that, but it happens at times.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily a case of if it tastes better out of a keg.
Yep.
With the wank factor.
Yeah.
That's for me. It's just wank factor. Sometimes that's bloody all you need to know. More than that.
Yep. And my final question for you is, what's next for Little John's Brewing?
As we're discussing the new house, so we're moving. So the brewery's changing.
Okay. And what sort of changes are having to be done for the brewery?
Well, I've got a much smaller space to brew in. Currently, I'm brewing in a 3-car garage, so
That's a dream. The garage I'm brewing in is literally the quarter depth of a 1-car garage.
Yeah, so I'm coming back into what's the old laundry on this house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 4 meters by. It's under 2.5. I think it's 2.3 meters wide. I've worked out with it. It's not much. They're not, and it's still not a bad size.
Mm-hmm.
But I run a lot of variations of equipment. Like, I don't just run the same single bit of equipment to brew.
Yep.
I do, and I have changed that a little bit. I have narrowed that down in the last 12 months, but only because I've had the grandkids in the house.
Yep.
But historically, over the channel, I've always brewed with different methods, different equipment, just so everybody can see how different things work. So I'm thinking I'm actually gonna have to pull back a little bit because I just don't have the space to keep everything. I don't have the space to.
But you've got the addition of a sink now, though.
I'm getting a sink. Yes, I've got water, which is fantastic. I don't have water. I have water. Yeah. But it's via the actual cistern on the toilet. It's a bloody got a water saver. So you flush the tap and it goes into the basin on top of the cistern.
Yep.
It goes into the toilet, fills the cistern up. So at the moment, I'm filling jugs out of that, and then jug into a bucket, and then into.
It's like 12 steps, sort of thing. Yeah.
It's insane. Like it's 2 liters of water at a go. So I'm sitting there. I can't really go anywhere while I'm doing it. So it's like a 20-minute dead space on every brew day. And I can't clean anything in the garage, so I've got to take stuff into the laundry or out in the backyard. So that's just going to be fantastic. I'll be able to just run my cooling just straight in the back. At the moment, I've got 30 metres of hose just to run my cooling coil on brew day.
Wow.
So being able to just have it, under 2 metres from the taps of the brew pot. That's
incredible.
Being able to wash kegs and fermenters and stuff right there in the brewery while I'm doing stuff is going to be fantastic. But it is going to pull things down an awful lot. But it does mean I can finally get out my 36-litre nano all-in-one system.
Yeah, nice.
Which I haven't even unboxed yet. I bought it 6 months ago when Cheeky Peak were closing their HomeBrew side. Mm-hmm. And I've not even got it out of the box. It's still sitting in the box it came in, and I'm so keen to get into that bit of gear.
Oh, you should do an unboxing video and show everyone what it comes with and what you got to do.
Well, I was going to. So so there's definitely going to be a few videos over the next little bit of getting the brewery up and running. But so that's coming up. But I'm going to particularly keep playing with these partial mash and dry extract kits. I think I've done. Yeah, but this Schwarzbier, that's one of those. It's actually a recipe from that fella over in the States.
Yep. Which one? Clawhammer is that?
No, that was from a fella called Skid Baxter, Vinny Salvatore.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, he sent me this recipe, which is using the same method. This comes from one of his local breweries. They gave it to him. It's an American version of a typical German Schwarzbier, so it's a little bit. It's not quite too traditional. Bloody beautiful beer.
Yeah. What's the flavor profile like on it?
Oh, it's just malty, nice toffee and caramel notes, tiny little bit of coffee and chocolate. It's just clean and got a nice mouthfeel. Just a really nice beer. And I think you drink that any time of the year.
Yeah, okay. It's
Drink it on a hot day. It's got enough lightness. It's got enough oomph in it. You could drink it in winter. But yeah, one of the best beers I've brewed for quite a while. Really nice.
Okay. And what's the next beer that you're going to brew? Or that you're thinking of?
At the moment, I haven't really got a brew in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I normally do. But because we got this with the new house going, I actually thought I'd be in the process of moving into the brewery over the next sort of couple of weeks. Looks like the move won't happen now till after Christmas.
Okay.
Taking a bit longer to get trades all done. Like at the moment, the whole floor is fully exposed, and as you saw earlier, we're working on getting the chimney rebuilt and stuff.
Yep.
So it's going to take a bit longer than we thought. But I think the next brew will be probably a partial mash extract, just like an Aussie pub draft.
Yeah, nice.
I've just done the Unloaded Dog, which is just an Aussie lager. I think I'll run a draft. I had that already penciled up. But other than that, I've got some brick road cans here. I've got to do. As I said before, I'm going to run, I think, Extractaganza to an end, but I've got a few brews that I want to try.
Yep.
And there's two brick road tins there, a Pacific Ale. I think the other one's just a draft as well.
Yep.
I want to run those through just purely for the channel and a little bit of information, because they've been getting some good feedback, and I haven't done enough experimenting on them. But yeah, so that'll sort of continue. I'm thinking at the moment, it's probably mid next year I'll just do an Extractaganza all together. I'm trying to get people to flip over to doing more this partial mash sort of stuff, or been playing around with the fella down in Nowra doing the like the partial mash as a kit, as opposed to a can, and that's making quite good beer. Yeah, I had a bit of drama recently because people thought I was actually involved in the business, but it wasn't. It was just purely advice and a personal interest on that one. So it's basically a partial mash brew in a pouch. You add to just your dry extract, same as you would with a kit tin.
Okay.
You've actually got the grains and that have already been cooked, and they're not reduced in any way.
Yeah.
So you don't get any of that. There's none of that old nasty kit twang. And it's just as easy to brew. It's the same process, and it's making far better beer. So I'm going to play around with a few more of those on the channel, more so than probably the actual kit tins themselves, because I think they're the next go forward for brewing.
Yep.
In Australia, in Australia in general, I think the way it's working, I think we might start seeing a lot more of that coming out of I think a lot of the big players might actually jump onto it a little bit.
Yep.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't. I hope they leave it for Chris down there in Nowra, because he's popped onto a
slaving away. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what happens. You do anything, people jump on it. Like, I've had recipes stolen. I've had commercial beers turn up, 2 months after I brewed it on the channel, practically the same recipe. It's like, come on, see this?
Yeah.
Wow. But the channel's going to keep going. I'll continue doing experiments when I see stuff pop up that warrants doing experiments on. There's not much left I haven't done an experiment on.
Yep.
Which is half the problem. So yeast comparisons, hop comparisons, stuff like method comparison. Keep doing all that sort of stuff. It keeps me interested in the brewing process too. So yeah. No,
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 that's fair
no
because
point of stopping.
I'm actually recently. So this one was done with juice, as in orange juice and passion fruit pulp. But I actually did the exact same identical, as in everything the same yeast, same amount of water, same extract, etc. Except I used orange peel and rinds and
Yep.
passion fruit pulp. That one is still currently fermenting at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see how it turns out in flavor profile because I'm still using the same hops with it and all that. But like you said, with the experiment, it's going to be interesting to see if it's a bit more bitter or something like that because of the
Yeah.
rinds, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's what I do.
I
Look,
d-
most of my brews I split,
yeah,
and I test some variables. So
yeah.
that which is good. You learn stuff a bit quicker that way because you get through more brews.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to thank you very much, John, for joining me on
No
this episode
worries.
of Interview with a Homebrewer. I'll definitely get you on again sometime in the future for a chinwag. Maybe once the new brewery is all set up, have a quick chinwag, maybe a little tour,
Yeah.
etc. Thank you so much
No,
for your
no
time.
problem.